Hey everybody, I'm live on Facebook and here to take your questions today or talk about whatever's on your mind. I'm going to try something different here. I'm going to go on to Facebook and see if I can see my feed. Looks like I can, and I think it might be easier to follow the comments that way. So I see Chloe is on. Hey Chloe, how are you? Hi Nancy. What's on your mind today? Let's see. Jane Leonard has joined. Well, I was trying to follow along the comments on my iPad. That experiment does not seem to be working. So I'll just follow along on my phone. Hey, Kathy. How are you guys today? So I'm here to really answer whatever questions you have. And, just to kind of say hi to everybody. And, Jane, I got to meet Jane when I was in Cork. And that was really a delightful time. My friend Brad Lovett is here up in Sevierville. So I'd love to, hear from you, see what's on your mind, and hear your questions. One of the things that's on my mind is Facebook had their earnings announcement last week, and it was really a blockbuster. I mean, Facebook is killing it, but there was an interesting comment on there that it was kind of sneaky. Their chief operating officer made a comment that said something about they're running out of advertising space. It's like, what does this mean? And what they're saying is that there's an art and science to how many ads Facebook can show in your news stream. If they show too few, they're being sub-optimized. If they're showing too many, they're going to be, pissing people off. So what they said, that we've kind of got this balance of how many ads that we can show, and our inventory is running out. So I think this is really interesting. I mean, it kind of is content shock, isn't it? Where the volume of content is increasing, the popularity of Facebook is increasing. When the popularity increases and the content increases, advertisers are going to run to Facebook. Facebook advertising has probably been undervalued. And what they're saying is the price of ads are going to go up. We can't create any more ads, at least with the properties they have now, so the cost of ads are going to go up. So I thought that was a very interesting, subtle little message that they were sending us on that earnings announcement. Okay, so let's get to some of the questions. Yeah, Nancy mentions, which means the prices are going to go up. And that's exactly right. It's economics, it's supply and demand. I think it's kind of like content shock right before our eyes, right? So let's see, Chris is asking me, have you ever been concerned, or are you now concerned about Facebook adoption in the 13 to 20 demographic? Boy, Chris, I mean, that's really a good question. And, I see things kind of going back and forth on that, where some of the research I'm seeing is that teens aren't completely abandoning Facebook, but they're diversifying. They're using more Instagram, they're using more Snapchat, and they're using Facebook in kind of as kind of an archive of their family photos and moments and memories and videos. So, some teens, I am definitely hearing from some teens, they're abandoning Facebook. I have a young nephew. You can't pin a trend based on what one person says. But my nephew said, the other day my friend posted something on Facebook and we made fun of him. So here's the thing, Chris, about Facebook and that demographic. Facebook isn't just Facebook. You have to remember that. Facebook owns Instagram. Facebook owns WhatsApp. And Facebook, I think, is going to continue to diversify, to morph, to create new platforms or buy new platforms. One way or another, they're going to maintain their connection to that demographic. It may not be the typical, Facebook that we know and love, but look, I got to tell you something. I'm impressed by how well managed Facebook is. It's not perfect, but here's where I got to give Mark Zuckerberg a lot of credit. He knows what he doesn't know, and he surrounds himself with great people, smart people who are experts in their field that can help him, counsel him, coach him, and he listens to them because he wants to build a great company. So, I think Facebook is a well-managed company, and they're not going to lose that demographic one way or another. So let me catch up with some of the other questions here. Article shows well not paid, but this means okay, Gloria has asked a question. Let's see if I understand it. Article sharing seems to be doing really well on our page, but this means we are directing people to other websites instead of our website. Article sharing. I'm not sure I completely understand your question, Gloria. I want to help you. Maybe, if you could ask the question another way, rephrase the question, and I will come back to it. Let's see, what's Jane asking here? I see my family using Viber. That sounds kind of erotic. Viber. No judgment. So Jane's family in Cork, where my family is from, Cork, Ireland. I see my family using Viber now to share photos to a private group setting. People who are happy to share their single carefree life on Facebook want to protect their kids' private pics. Jane, this is a very rich comment that you're making here. And this is a trend that people just aren't talking about, and I don't understand why. I wrote a blog post, I think it might be 4 to 6 weeks ago now, about this mega trend of moving from public social media to private media. And nobody has really picked up on this. I mean, this is a major trend. And here's what I mean. If you add up the usage of the top 4 social media platforms and compare that to the usage of the top 4 messaging apps, like Messenger and Snapchat and WhatsApp, and one other one, maybe Kik might be the 4th, at the end of 2015, for the first time in history, the usage of those private apps is greater than social media. So what you're saying here, Jane, is a mega trend. And we need to pay attention to this. Private media, private messaging is now bigger than social media. Now, social media is still growing. It's going to continue to be important. But we're seeing this trend, and Jane, you are tapping into this exactly right. People are tired of putting their life on display for the whole world. They're tired of bullying. They're tired of stalkers and trolls, and they're taking it back in. And you know what? That's not all bad. You could argue that something like Snapchat is the way social media was meant to be. It was, it was private. It was kind of goofy and fun and in the moment. And I think people are starting to take that back. So, Jane, your observation, I think, is right on point. And let's Let's see what else. People are going, LOL, LOL. I'm glad I made you laugh. I'm happy that I made you laugh. Let's see. Yeah, Kathy, you made a great comment about, this content shock that's happening with Facebook ads. John Esperian, he's one of my relatively newer connections, so I'm happy to see you, John. Where are social advertising dollars best spent when promoting a service or business? Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or somewhere else? Which gives you the most bang for your buck? That's such a great question these days, isn't it? Especially in a world where ads are being seen less and less. We're moving toward an ad-free society. You heard it here first. There's no real cookie cutter answer, John. You have to go where the people are. And I want to mention something interesting. This brings up another great point, John. I don't know if you guys saw this or not. There was an amazing article in the Wall Street Journal this week. Procter & Gamble said, we need to do less targeting in our advertising. I think I'll write a blog post about this early next week, so watch for it. I'll put a link to this Wall Street Journal article. This is big news. Procter & Gamble is the biggest Facebook advertiser in the world, right? They have more data, more research than any company in the world about Facebook advertising. Here's what they found out, that they are getting better reach, better conversions just putting an ad out there to the world than they are to targeted demographics. This is huge information. This is one of the most important learnings, I think, about Facebook advertising that I have seen. So I went off target there for a minute, John, but I wanted to bring this up. It kind of prompted this thing that I saw. I wanted to make sure everybody saw that. Watch for my blog next week. I'll try to tell you a little bit more about that. John, it so much depends on where your audience is. And what I would do, instead of fumbling around trying to figure out what advertising platforms work best, find a professional. And I'm talking from experience. I tried to do a lot of this advertising stuff myself to save money, and I fumbled around, stumbled around, and then I connected with a professional. He said, oh, we're going to do this, and boom. After a couple months, the thing got optimized. We learned how to do it better, and I'm so happy I'm not doing it myself. Now, here's a tip. I do think there are some real bargains in Twitter right now. Why? Because I just talked a moment ago about how Facebook's advertising inventory is drying up. That means their prices are going up. Twitter still has inventory. So Twitter is a relative bargain. If your customers are there, I would encourage you, give it a try. Do some experiments with Twitter. I've done some experiments with some of my clients with Twitter. We've had a lot of great success. And Twitter has been very, very creative in some of the advertising platforms that they're coming out with now. Let me give you one other tip. Maybe you didn't know this. When you do an ad on Twitter, you only pay if people engage with the ad. That means click it, favorite it, retweet it. Now, if people retweet it and that goes to their audience and people click, you don't pay. That's a little secret about Twitter advertising. Maybe you didn't know about that. It's like a bonus. So you only pay for the initial audience Twitter exposes your ad to. If people forward it, that's a free bonus. Let's see what else is going on here. Man, I love seeing you guys. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I wish we could sit around a table and see each other face to face, but hopefully Facebook is gonna they hinted that they're gonna be allowing multiple screens soon, like Blab, and I'm gonna really love this. Heather's making some nice comments here. I'm just loving seeing you guys here today. Hi, Mark. This is from John, my great friend. John I'm going to be seeing him soon. I'm going to be in Pennsylvania in September. I can't remember the dates, but I'm going to be in Lancaster, PA. So if you're anywhere in the New Jersey, Philadelphia area, come up to Lancaster and see me so I can meet you guys. Okay, so speaking of Ireland, my family's from Mayo. I'm currently a manager in my company, but would like to certainly move up. Which skills, you know what, John? This is so amazing. You're asking me this question. I'm gonna write a blog post for you, John, because I've been thinking a lot about this. John's asking, how do I move to the next level? And let me just tell you a quick little story, and I'll tell you that this is what I'm thinking about writing about for my next book. I'm starting to put some ideas together. So I worked for a Fortune 100 company for more than 2 decades. Like you, John, I worked hard. I built a big reputation at my company. I was in the top 1% of the executives of this Fortune 100 company. I had 7 patents. I had won 2 chairman awards. I was at the top of my field. I was the go-to guy in this global company for all things digital. Then I decided to leave, start my own business, consult, and teach. And the veil of silence dropped. It's just like, no emails, no meetings, no frenzy. And I was the go-to guy for nothing. Isn't that interesting? All those things I had achieved in my career, all that equity I built up at my company, didn't matter. And here's the only thing that matters, John, today, if you want to get to the next level, certainly outside your company and even inside your company. You have to be known. Nobody cares anymore what your title is on an organizational chart. Nobody cares how much money you make. Nobody cares what family you married into or how big your house is. The only thing that creates power and influence on the web today is to be known. So what I'm thinking through is there a process we can follow to be known? I think there is. And that's what I'm going to be working on over the next few months. Because people are asking me questions like this all the time. How do I move to the next level? How do I write a book that sells? How do I start a speaking career? How do I, how do people know me to be considered for a board position? The answer to every one of these questions is you have to be known. So that's what we're going to be working on. Let's see. Phoebe, my buddy Phoebe, the Wonder Intern, is on here today. Cheryl's asking me, why are you not in your office with your books displayed on the bookcases behind you? Was it something Facebook called you out on as too commercial? No, Facebook isn't that smart. I just wanted to change it up a little bit today. The real reason I'm in this setting today is because my wife is traveling today. So I don't have to be in my office. I'm in my house. See, I'll show you here. See, I'll show you. Here's my house. I don't know what you can see here. There, see? I'm looking at the lake. I don't know if you can see this or not. So this is my house. So I'm having fun, kind of relaxing here. And so I got the whole house to myself. So Kathy, that's why I'm not in my office today. So yes, John, you're welcome. Hey, Kelly. Kelly, I'm really enjoying getting to know you, Kelly. And I'm so happy that you're following me. So let's see. What else is on your mind here? Let's look for questions. I've got Saad on here from Pakistan. Woo! Saad in the house. Yeah, to be known. Jeff, he's talking about David Meerman Scott's books. He is a great intellect. Here's what I'm finding. I'm a little bit, I always get a little twinge when I hear this thing about personal branding. And here's what I'm finding is that a lot of the advice out there on personal branding stops short of what you need to do. So it's all about find your passion, find your true meaning. Well, let's say your true passion is collecting Star Wars figurines. That's what you love to do. Cool. Are you going to be known for that? Are you going to build a sustainable business on that? Probably not. So when people like Gary Vee tell you, look in the mirror today and think, what is the thing I want to do more than anything today? Then go do that and start your business. Bullshit. You know, you can't, you're not going to build a brand necessarily on Star Wars figurines. It may not be scalable. So I see a lot of problems with the personal branding guru thing today. I just see a lot of problems with it. It's not practical. It's not scalable. It doesn't tell you how to do it. The issue is not building a personal brand. The issue is becoming known. That's how I had a conversation yesterday with Phil Mershon. This illustrates my point. Phil, if you don't know Phil, he's the guy that picks the speakers for Social Media Marketing World in San Diego. This is an amazing world-class event. I was so blessed and fortunate last year to be the closing keynote speaker. And Phil was calling me to invite me back again next year. And I was talking to Phil about this idea that, I had this old career. Nobody even knows about my old career. Nobody cares. He said, you know what, Mark? I've known you for 5 years. We're friends. I had no idea you used to work for Alcoa. Had no idea. I said, this proves my point, Phil, that what I achieved in this corporate setting doesn't matter. The only reason you're inviting me to speak at your conference is because I'm known. And if I wasn't known, I wouldn't be there. He said, you're right. And if I probably went away for 6 months, I still probably wouldn't be invited. So I think there's a lot to this idea. So Bob Turner is saying, great, this is a good quote. John is appreciative. You're great. Okay. I'm trying to catch up with your comments. Thank you so much for being here with me today. And, I know I say this all the time. I never, ever take anybody for granted that spends time with me and my content. So, it's amazing. William Rock is talking about some great resources here. Okay. John, okay. Question from Heather. I want to do more speaking about social media marketing specifically for churches, chambers, locally based business. What would you recommend a great way to get myself noticed more in those industries? Heather, you and I, we're just kind of starting to get to know each other, so I don't know a lot about your background or what you're doing today. But I think this is wonderful. I think it's a great opportunity. I think number one is you have to pick a piece of a channel of rich content to get started. So what do I mean by this? So a couple years ago, I wrote a blog post about clout, right? It went viral. And a few weeks later, I got a call from a reporter from the New York Times saying, I did research on this article. Can I interview you for the New York Times? Now, would I have ever gotten that call? Would I have ever been in the New York Times if I put my ideas only on Twitter, only on Facebook? No. So you need every brand building exercise starts with a source of rich content. Blog, podcast, video. Some businesses may be visual, but the big three, written, audio, video, all right? So you have to build up your content portfolio and just pick one. Don't worry about being everywhere. Pick one, do it well, build an audience. That is the starting point. Another person I want you to connect with, if you don't know Nachi Lazarus, he's based in India. He is doing amazing social media marketing for churches over in India. He's a great resource. He's a great person for you to get to know. I want to connect you guys. So that would be my first place to start. So Annie Alexander says there's no such thing as true passion. Well, that sounds like a blog post. Okay. Cheryl says clout score is still a thing. You know, I don't really know. Well, yes, I do know. Yes, I do know. Let me tell you a little secret. About a year and a half ago, I did research for a big Japanese agency around influence marketing in America. And what we found out was 85% of all the big ad and marketing agencies in America do some sort of influence marketing. Here's a sneaky little secret nobody talks about. Almost all of them use clout. Basically, clout with sugar on top. That's how they're doing it. It was amazing. I mean, they kind of like say we've got our own algorithm. But when you sit down with these people and have a couple drinks, they say it's clout. So clout still matters. And clout is a blunt instrument. It's not really refined, but sometimes all you need is a blunt instrument. Sometimes a blunt instrument is fine. A billboard is a blunt instrument. So, yes, you know, clout matters. There were some big announcements this week where clout was creating this new interface with Twitter or something. I didn't really dig into it, but yeah, I mean, clout is owned by Lithium now, and they're doing big things. So, okay. All right, I'm getting lots of nice comments, and I really love all these comments. And I'm, yes, Saad, I agree with you in building a community, absolutely. Hi, Denise, good to see you. Okay, thank you, Nancy, for helping and contributing some comments here. And, you know, William makes this comment very interesting. Let's go back a step. I wrote the first book on influence marketing called Return on Influence. I have probably studied clout more than any human being on earth. And I am in the deep minority when I say that clout matters. And here's what I can see that most other analysts or, you know, people or commentators, here's what they don't see. They get caught up on this word of influence. How can clout, predict influence? They don't know how influential I am at home or at work or even online. Now, let's get rid of that word, all right? And instead, let's look at this. Here's what you need to do to increase your clout score. You need to create or share content that gets shared on the web. Content, you have to share content that moves on the web. Now, if you've read any of my books, you know I feel pretty strongly about this, that this is the economic driver of the web. The economics of social media are not driven by content. They're not. The economic value of content that is not seen and shared is zero. When you push the publish button, the economic value you're contributing is zero, unless it's seen and shared. What a clout score indicates, it's an indicator, it's a relative indicator of people whose content gets shared. Now, say what you want about clout, get emotional about clout. That's important. In fact, that's critical. And if you criticize clout just because you get emotional about the word influence without really understanding what it measures, and clout did themselves a disservice when, their tagline was the standard of influence. Okay, look, if you've got a tagline like that, people are going to throw rocks at you, all right? So clout did themselves a disservice by creating this emotional furor. But clout is a relative indicator of the ability to move content. And that is gold. And that's why the dirty little secret in advertising today is almost every freaking agency in America uses it. But they don't tell you. They make it their own secret sauce, their own. So, well, my gracious, I just got on my soapbox there, my clout soapbox, didn't I? So thank you for obliging me. So Annie's asking, how much clout do you need to have to be considered okay? You know what, Annie? You're okay. If you guys don't know Annie, I love her. She's become a great friend. Annie actually works for me now. She's doing producing on my podcast, and she's just been a great talent and a joy to work with. And if you guys need any help on producing podcasts, and here's a big recommendation. If you're working on tech stuff that doesn't contribute to revenue, don't do it. Stop it. Outsource it. All right? You need to concentrate on revenue producing activities. Even if you love the tech stuff, stop it. So Annie is my resource. She does all the editing. She does all the posting on my podcast, The Marketing Companion, because if I did that, it would take away my time from creating content, which is, what I do. So that's just a little advertisement for Annie Alexander. So Annie, clout score, I think the average clout score in the world, I think it's like about a 30. If you're doing really well on the web, if you're creating content and you're very active, you'll probably have a score of about 50. If you have a score above 50, then you're really, kind of doing something exceptional, I think. Those are guidelines, but again, it depends on what you want to do. I think people who really work for a living, they're probably going to have a lower clout score than people who spend all day, on Twitter and Facebook. My clout score has stayed the same, I think, for 5 years because I just, I'm consistent. Okay, let me see. I love Jeff Robinson's comment here. Value in clout and other similar platforms is only valuable if and when the data is verified. See, and what Jeff is hinting at here is, again, clout is useful and wonderful, but it's a blunt instrument. It does not tell the whole story. So you can't simply count on that as your beginning and end of influence marketing measurement. Okay. Let's see, Kathy. If you please tell J.S. Gilbert has a book coming out called The Influencer Effect. Interesting. That's interesting. I actually started thinking about writing a book on influence marketing because one of the things that I've been disappointed in is that I wrote Return on Influence in 2012. And it's still, a solid book, a seminal book in the field. But nobody's ever really written the follow-up book on practical application. I had a lot of early case studies. I mean, when you think about it, when I turned in my manuscript in 2011, nobody even heard of influence marketing. So I was kind of ahead of my time. I saw this was going to go mainstream. And so that's why I was so passionate about writing the book. But nobody's ever really written the follow-up book on how to do it. So maybe that's what Gilbert is writing about. I hope so. I thought about writing that book, but it just wouldn't be strategic for me. Let's see. My friend Suresh from California says, my relatives from Maryland are staying with me. Would you like to participate in your next live session? Can you let me know when that would be to make a note in my calendar? I'm not that organized. basically, I kind of want to do these every 3 to 4 weeks because I just don't want to be that guy, who's, here all the time. I think it would be joyful for me to do it every kind of 3 or 4 weeks, and maybe happy for you to see me and ask questions every 3 to 4 weeks. But I was actually intending to do this yesterday, and then something came up. So, Suresh, I'm not gonna really commit to any kind of schedule. I think it'd just be more fun for me to say, hey, it's been about 3 to 4 weeks, and it's time to get on. So, Michael Stelzner, Michael, you're just so obsessed with Pokemon Go. It makes me laugh. The problem here, Michael, is I live out in the country, and there are no Pokemon here. And I had this amazing epiphany. I was in San Francisco last week, and holy crap, there are Pokemon in all these stations and gymnasiums every block. And I thought, oh, now I understand why people love this thing. I mean, out here where I live in the country, I live about 20 minutes from Knoxville, Tennessee, which is a glorious, fun, amazing city. And I'm sure there's lots of Pokemon there. But, Mike, what I'm doing is I don't have little kids. So I don't have a reason to go in the park and help my kids find these things. I'm doing enough Pokemon so I understand it. I think that as leaders, when these new platforms are introduced, we need to know enough to ask the right questions. And I think this is why a lot of people get overwhelmed, because something new comes up, Facebook Live or Snapchat or Blab or whatever, Pokemon Go, and we said, oh my gosh, we have to become the experts in this. I don't think so. I think if you want to be a thought leader in the space, we need to know enough to ask the right questions for our clients. How can this be applied practically? So I've got my toe in Pokemon Go, but I'm not a Jigglypuff kind of guy. Okay. Let's see. Do you know anything about cloud that measures? Justin, hey buddy. Oh man, Justin, I haven't heard from you in a long time. It's been too long. Do you know of anything like clout that measures influence as a secondary source? I'll tell you, a platform I like very much is Tracker, and it has a reasonable cost. I'm sure, Justin. I mean, you probably know Tracker. Right now, honestly, I still study the influence space. I'm not really sure Tracker has a competitor right now. There are a lot of excellent platforms. Cision, excellent platform, but they're kind of media oriented. Some of the other things are they all have their niches. What I like about Tracker is that they keep adding new functionality. It's almost like a CRM for influence. Another one to check out is, of course, Affinio. What Affinio is doing, I think this might be what you're asking around the secondary audience. They look at overlapping audiences, which is very, very interesting. They're doing some amazing work. And by the way, Affinio has introduced a new free tool. I think it's called Discover or Discovery. So check out Affinio. Annie, your clout score is 73. Okay, that's amazing. Let's see, what else? I know a little about clout, but they themselves say people's average score is 40. Okay, then it went up. It used to be about 35. Andrew's asking, when are we going to get to better tools around influence marketing? Here's the problem. There are better tools. There are some amazing platforms out there. One of them, for example, is Opinions, Appions. And here, opinions goes beyond social media. They look at influence across traditional media, blogs, forums. They look across 6 million online sources. But here's the problem. It's so expensive. I think their monthly seat, I want to say, is like $7,000 or $8,000 a month. It's just not accessible to most people. So, I mean, there are amazing tools out there. What people are doing with big data today is incredible. But I mean, opinions, they're crunching so much data. And of course, it's going to be expensive for them to do that. So, I mean, there are tools out there, but they're expensive. Okay, let's see. Oh, Mike Stelzer says he quit Pokemon Go. Yeah, but dude, you were like at level 30 or something like that. And see, you've got an excuse because you've got little kids. Okay. Scott Duhlmeyer on here. Oh man, Scott is awesome. He's loving Knoxville. Scott works for Workfront. If you haven't checked out Workfront, you got to check these guys out. They are some of the nicest, most innovative people on the web. All right, so I answered some of these other questions. Jeff asks, who's going to step up and buy Twitter? Yeah, here's the obvious answer, Google. For a lot of reasons. Google, I think, makes the best sense to buy Twitter. And here's the awesome thing about Twitter. You know, Twitter gets a lot of bad press because they're not making these, they're not increasing their user base as fast as Wall Street would like. But here's the amazing thing about Twitter. Twitter has 325 million active users who love it. It's part of the fabric of their lives. This is where news breaks. If you look at how many television shows depend on Twitter, how many news broadcasts depend on Twitter, how many big stories break on Twitter. I mean, Twitter is the fabric, part of the fabric of our digital lives today. So there's tremendous value in Twitter other than how many people they keep adding on. Twitter is quirky. That's one of the reasons people love it. If you make it less quirky, people might love it less. So they're kind of stuck. They are going to thrive as part of another company. I think it's inevitable. That's where it's going to end up. And their stock is so low right now. I think who's going to sweep in and get them? I think it makes a lot of sense for Google because for two reasons. Number one, actually three reasons. Number one, it's a tremendous amount of source of data, personal data, that is right in line with the kind of work Google does. Number two, it could be a very viable source of advertising revenue. You could hook it on to their AdWords program and create some interesting new packages. And the third reason, it was a really, really great one, and now it's slipping my mind. There are three reasons. I have said two of them. I can't remember the third. Maybe by the time we finish here, I will. All right, so you guys are great. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. LinkedIn, Microsoft buying Twitter, maybe. Oh, Justin, can you spell? Oh, it's Affinio. 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 That's their new jingle. I just made it up. Okay. Maybe let's take one more question here. The final question of today's Facebook Live is brought to you by Malhar Barai. And I have butchered your name, but it's my intent that counts. And Malhar says, do you still bet on Twitter? They are bringing new features, but they can't monetize it. You know, the reason I bet on Twitter is because, I mean, the biggest mistake they ever made was going public. And once you go public, you are on that inexorable march to beat your quarterly numbers every time without fail. That doesn't mean Twitter isn't great. That doesn't mean Twitter can't be a great business and a profitable business. But they are just on a march that's too fast for them right now. They've got brain drain. They've lost a lot of their top executives. But we need to step back and look at the equity that Twitter has in our society. Twitter is important. Twitter is powerful. Twitter is a beloved brand. They haven't done a good job marketing. They haven't done a good job monetizing. They probably should never have gone public. They're losing a lot of their top people because they're all stressed out. But there are ways to fix Twitter. Absolutely there are. But it may not be able to survive as a public company because the pace of their progress is going to be different than what Wall Street expects. They need to operate they need to be a private company, or they need to be part of Google. It's the only way Twitter's going to succeed. They can't swim in the Wall Street shark tank, all right? So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we have spent a wonderful 45 minutes together. This has been so much fun. Again, thank you for spending your time with me today. I appreciate every single person here, and we'll see you around. Thanks for following me and for watching my blog and for watching today. Take care, everyone.